And we are live. Welcome to Mainstream Movie Reviews number 3. And today we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Where actually, we only got two topics, but I think we can have a very long discussion about it.
Mhm.
How are you, D Lord?
I'm good. It's interesting you choose to do two diametrically polar opposites because, I've even seen, I need to look up what the Rotten Tomatoes is for Borderlands. I don't even think the critics liked it.
I don't trust at all uh, Rotten Tomato
It's a
and
guide. It's a guide.
no,
Okay.
no, it's BS. I think critique like YouTube YouTubers and such.
What do you mean? Like, you don't trust actual movie critics who.
Yeah, I don't really trust them because most of them are like
Uh,
in some kind of echo chamber, if we can call it
it's an
that
echo.
way.
It's kind of
They
like.
they
It's.
all need to hit their bullet point, you know. And the same goes for like reviewers out there that are part of an echo chamber as well. So what I I blame the critic for doing or from doing.
Mhm.
I blame it to other content creator on YouTube as well. Like if you are an anti SJW critique, or if you are like a leftist or something, and
Mhm.
if you're really driven by your politics, I'm not trusting you. Whatever your side you're
Yeah,
on,
and
I just cannot trust you.
I established this just because it's weird, right? Because usually, if the credit score is high and the fan thing is low, so it's like on YouTube when someone talks about Social Blade. Social Blade is a guide because it's not 100% accurate. Because let's say Rotten Tomatoes and type sites use select critics. Because some stuff will score really high on critics, but usually a series that scores high on critics or a movie is actually a really good movie because the critics didn't or hated it. Like if they hate it, it's a good show. If they like it, it's probably bad.
I'd say watch it for yourself. Don't
Yeah, that's what
trust
there's.
Rotten Tomato
You
or
you do
IMDb
you do
or
both. It's a guide, but it doesn't kill a series because there's a lot of people who critique stuff because it's like I want to say Fallout. I want to see how Fallout came out because it's a series kind of like Shogun that I was talking about earlier. It was done out of fan love.
yeah,
It may not be more accurate, as I'll get into later, but it's a very interesting thing because I saw a lot of YouTubers I kind of like disagree. They go, "Oh, it's just one of those things." Because if you know Fallout and you played the Fallout games, the baseline they lay out is a good one. It
yeah,
doesn't always it does have some weaknesses in the plot like when you go over if we ever go over the Cape Crusader, right?
yeah,
But it does have the stupid Fallout video game logic.
yeah,
Like the big thing in the perk, right, is that's what I was curious when you act. You see why I love this series because if you're familiar with a game like Bloody Mess perk and stuff like the Rifleman perks, they based characters on characters could build.
yeah.
Hmm. That's a big difference. I bring up the critics because there was a lot of people who said, "Well, Bethesda's going to kill it." No, it's set canonly different. So we could probably start with Borderlands because we probably have the same
Yeah.
opinion of Borderlands.
Yeah. And
Borderland.
just before we get into Borderland, I think it's the right time for the intro. And I also realized like uh in the back half of that season I will have the intro a bit smaller or shorter, I should say. So let's go
Yes.
for it. So yeah, Borderlands. Oh my.
We knew it was going to be shit.
Yeah.
We knew.
Yeah.
We knew it. I told you in DMs. Like, I know. I had no hopes for going into there. Literally.
You know what? I was like, before the reviews came out, I was hopeful and I was like, maybe it will be good. And then like the week the movie came out, all I see is like negative stuff, negative stuff. So I was like, I'm not watching Rotten Tomato or any platform because I don't trust critique or reviewers. But when every single outlet is like, this is shite, this is bad.
It was, I saw the trailer. Okay. I judged it from the trailer. And I'm like, what have they done to my boy? It's I'm like, Lilith is not Lilith. Like, I don't even play Borderlands, but I know enough about Borderlands lore that some of these characters aren't this way. Like,
And it's hilarious because I will bring Netflix movies as an example because I already have seen two Netflix movies recently and they're bad, like really bad, but like Borderlands just found a way to be worse than a Netflix movie.
then a Netflix series? Like, okay, here's the thing. I was thinking about it when I watch it. I've grown up in the 90s, right? We had video game adaptations. You had
Yeah.
Resident Evil. You had The Rock in Doom.
Yeah.
Okay, you never have you seen it?
Which
Like
one?
Doom,
Doom Part 2?
Doom,
Doom. Oh, Doom. Doom. Oh, Doom.
Doom with
Doom.
The Rock.
No, I didn't.
It's a real film. Doom is a real film that
They did
sits
a movie about
Doom.
that.
Yes, and it had Dwayne as at the end. He basically the whole reason people turn evil. It's kind of set like around when they reset the universe with the. It starts on Mars first with the. What was it when they rebooted Doom 3? Yeah,
Wow. I
and
knew about the games because I did play the one in Nintendo 64 back then, and my mother would hate
yeah,
it because I
yeah.
was too young. But my father was like, "Oh, who cares? He won't end up
It's
deleting
so
people."
Doom. So when they relaunched it, right? So the concept, right? I know what bad video games. There's parts of it, and it doesn't feel like a Doom film. Like at the end, he becomes like a Hell Knight because The Rock takes the gene to fight the Hell Invaders, kind of thing. And it's like they hint at like the Pinky Demon from Doom 3. Like, but it's like, but it does the same level of fan service, but it has the same level of bad or worse acting. In
God damn.
Borderland, like and then but the only redeeming sequence in the film is the ending towards where he goes through like Doom 3 when he's going through like with the guns killing the demon infested people. But it's like it's so subpar.
I don't know about that. D-Lord, do you know about that?
No, The Rock didn't reset it. No, the Doom movie was based on they used the lore from Doom 3.
Okay. Well, that
That
that sounds terrible. To be honest, making a Doom movie, I just don't know. I feel like that's the kind of experience you need to play and not necessarily like watch. But again, that's based on like 5 or 6 years old me playing that game for the first time. So I don't know.
you got to look at it. Did you like the Resident Evil films?
I've heard about that, but I didn't watch any of them because they just sound terrible. And I have a card game of Resident Evil, and I got a bunch of games of Resident Evil, but I will be blunt and honest.
You've never seen the films.
I've never even played. I know about that franchise. I have a bunch of games of that franchise. I plan on eventually getting into it.
Oh.
Um, but I know it's about zombies, and I got a board game. I played the board game, but not the video games. That's the weird part. And I did only hear bad stuff about the movies, so I don't know. I want to stay away as long as I can.
So the movies, right? It has things Milana Jovovich, right? She played. They did it kind of in a weird order where they adapted it, but it wasn't terrible. It was faithful to the material in the realm, and it goes over like Resident Evil 3, and then it goes to like Apocalypse kind of thing. Like, and it ties it together in that weird logic of it. And it's like when you look at like you're adapting a video game work, I mean, you're not expecting the best plot unless they're going to follow a game and you kind of want to know how they're doing it. Because, like with Borderlands, right? Because I know you don't trust critics, and I brought that up earlier.
I don't.
Very rare do you have the critics and the audience on the same page.
And very rare, like every single person you ask to, like regardless where they are coming from, it's rare that you will see like some kind of echoes from one to another. And when like YouTubers that are usually against critique and critique are like on the same page, maybe that's a sign.
Uh-huh.
Just saying, when everyone tells you the same thing, trust them. But again, I went into it hoping it'd be better than what the critic said, but then I entered the theater and I was alone. So I was like, okay, sign number one. Nobody really want to go see it. And only bad reviews are out so far. So okay, let's see how it goes. And I was like, okay, so if it happens to be great, amazing. If it happens to be bad, it's still kind of cool because content, content. I'm
There's not
making
even people milking it for content. It's that bad.
I'm making bunch of videos about 2024 movies, and I was kind of worried I wouldn't have seen enough bad movies to fill the
To,
quota to make the video. But man, Borderland was just so bad. Another movie added to the list. Um, it's
uh,
funny. It's
so
funny.
if you here's the thing you got to remember as well. So do you know we're on another thing where critics and stuff got united on? It's the Disney Who. Disney Who, even towards the end, right? Um, even by the end, when they like like critics, once they realized it, and these were progressive or left leaning people, they go, when you get to certain episodes where you get for the 10th time the doctor is reminded he's gay and he's an awful human being, and then white people are bad, they're like, oh shit, we need to make an honest critique about this. And it's by one of the episode, like Dot Bubble is the episode, I think it's called. They literally are honest. They're like, you're like, who was this series made for? And
Nobody.
when you can't make a series and that target demo that you're making it for, it's not made for Doctor Who fans. It's not made for the people who you think are the Twitterites, the online terminally left that liked the series. They hated the series or thought it was weird too. And this is not like someone hate brigaded it. I watched the show because legitimately I'm a Doctor Who fan. Now, am I less reluctant to watch the second season of Got Was episode season because he Disney greenlit that for 2 automatic seasons? Like,
Out of spite for the viewer.
no, actually, okay, little short fact, right? When something was Disney we knew Russell T Davies was coming back to being the person who was the head of it. So Disney, instead of like Bad Wolf and others, was funding it. So they funded like 16 to 20 episodes. Kind of like X-Men 97, right?
So
X-Men
many
97.
episodes.
It's at least 20. It's at least X amount of runtime episode. But they still have one more in the can to do for Doctor Who. And we'll see if they correct it. Well, yeah. You didn't know that? Okay, so this is why when I disagree with like Velma, right? Velma was greenlit because it's animated. It's kind of like X-Men 97's that way too. They greenlight 2, like, what is it, like 20 to 30 episodes due to runtime. But Disney automatically did that, and they're stuck with it because it's like Amazon automatically as well has paid for 5 years of Rings of Power.
So there's like
I shit you not.
there's like other season of that shit.
Yes. You don't think about this, but like in an animated runtime, but like when I thought, whoever pitched this Borderlands movie, they got like the guy who's supposed to be the elite soldier. Lilith is too old. Jamie Lee's Curtis Doctor, even though that was quirky, like in the video game, they nail some of the characters, right? They're just too old to play the roles.
Yeah, this I agree, and it's coming from me that has played maybe an hour or two the game, and I will be blunt and honest. I'm not the biggest fan. Like I enjoy like the tone, the humor, and like the visual and such, but I'm so tired of all of the open world trend we got right now. That's why I most likely don't enjoy modern gaming that much. I'm tired. I don't like open world games. It's
Uh,
just not my cup of tea, and I feel like
it's
they all want their piece of it.
I don't know. That's a difference. Like when you're talking about Borderlands as a franchise, it's made around a bunch of quirky characters that you can play. Like the one actress nailed Tiny Tina.
I think the actors were
She
solid.
nailed Tiny Tina. I just didn't like the guy who played Soldier. Like Lilith, that's not Lilith. That's not I mean, Moxie was old too. It's meant to be like that, like, it's not meant to be the perfect world.
Yeah,
Like, Soldier's supposed to be tall, not Kevin Hart short.
I
Like,
I I will say this. Like I feel like the casting might be wrong, but it was good on paper. It was good on
it was good
paper
on paper.
because they are good actors, and I think they all kind of nailed in their role. But where they really failed the casting, it's because they don't feel like the characters in the game. And I say that, and I played like 2 hours of that game. So
Yeah.
I feel like as a normie, it will be much easier for someone that to watch this movie. But even there, that movie is just so bad. I'm sorry, guys. Borderland failed.
It's like, okay, Handsome Jack doesn't have many lines. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
Handsome Jack is Handsome Jack. If you are not familiar with Borderlands and never played it, you know the character of Handsome Jack.
yeah,
It's just, I could never get into the game because take the worst satire series of Fallout, even the bad comedic humor, shove it into a game, and Gearbox thought it was good. On top of really bland style. Like, Lilith is not meant to be like a 50-year-old. Because what breaks it is when you finally realize who Lilith is, the ending that is so CGI shit. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
it does. It does.
Because you haven't even got into it. Do you remember the fight, the big fight when she unlocks her powers, what she really is? It looks awful. I'm
It does.
halfway tempted to find the video game version of that and show it to people. It, like, it's like, and then it's like Jamie Lee Curtis's head on his CGI body. And I'm like, and a lot of the practical effects in this film look worse than a Netflix movie. Like,
I
the
I won't
costume.
defend that much movie, but I will say that it's not the thing that really bothered me. So I guess I will get into my issues. But
Okay,
one
let me
is
say that. Let me say this though. I'll let you continue. It's even if you take the comedic relief, that's the robot. It's jokes that go on too long.
yeah. You stole my some of the stuff I wanted to say, but the I guess I will let you finish your idea,
You're
but
good. I'll probably coming after. The robot is a joke. All these jokes that go on too long. And I'm not going to even get into. I remember a couple of what they did because it's not like you didn't know the robot was this way. Someone told them to run with the same gag jokes forever.
yeah.
I'll let you do your thing.
So I guess here are my issue. Number one, unlimited plot armor going into the creature as it blew up. So they were on the truck and like they were throwing bombs, and even the characters were like, "Oh, that's a bad idea." They still end up doing it because that movie is a satire, a comedy. Like it should be funny and all, but I thought that was still very stupid. Like it blows up, but yet they just go through the flames and they just keep rolling around with their vehicle. It didn't make any sense for me, and it's not the only instance where there's crazy plot armor. Like later on, that's my next issue. People cannot aim. Like let's be real. Like nobody that was important died from a bullet, and everyone was shooting at some point, and there was always a shootout somewhere in the movie. The other issue would be soldiers surviving being a bait in the masked people lair. So they're like, oh, the one that stays there will die, but he didn't. Are you kidding me? He was supposed to freaking die, but no, the movie plot armor is just nasty. I swear. Like everyone, every single character we got to follow for like an hour and a half, they should have all died at some point in the movie. And I hate this shit. Like I enjoy action movie, and I enjoy satire, I enjoy comedy, but you push it way too far. Like you expect me too much. Like the suspension of disbelief that is required to just to follow the story, it was bad. The other issue I got, teleportation felt like a asshole since it wasn't properly introduced earlier that people could do that. So they talked about teleportation, but they didn't say, "Oh, here's what we can do," and then it's just something that happens in the movie. Do you know what I mean, D Lord?
It helps a little bit to know what the different characters do. Like, they do run. Like, I knew you were gonna hate the whole thing on the plot armor, like the idea of Handsome Jack being near indestructible.
Everyone is.
Like
Everyone
that's
is.
actually the problem with a lot of Borderlands. Like, even if the characters could die, some of them are so over the top as far as like Lilith being a killer who has the headshots, Handsome Jack being able to tank stuff. It has the video game logic, but it doesn't explain the video game logic. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like,
That's how I felt with the teleportation. Like they two characters teleport at two different places, and I didn't feel like the movie properly set up the teleportation skill. I hated this. I was like, it's just very convenient. That teleportation is the only way they could survive that elevator, like blowing up the ceiling and stuff, and they do it. It's so stupid. I hate it.
I can see why. I'm not saying it's wrong. Like, I agree that they wanted to take the quirks of the video. I think, okay, I've heard this and I need to look this up before I for sure say this. This same director tried to do a thing for Uncharted and it didn't even come out.
No shit, it didn't come out.
That's
uh,
how bad it was.
and
Okay.
and Borderland comes out. I can't imagine the other one that didn't.
How
Uh,
bad do you do Uncharted?
I have no idea. And I played Uncharted like the first three. I played a few hours. I didn't latch onto the games. I can't remember why. Maybe it's because it didn't keep my interest enough. I don't know. But I think it's very hard to not make a good Uncharted movie. Um, it's almost impossible.
How do you even I think what the Tomb Raider film when they did the really bad reboot that no one liked based on Shadow of Tomb Raider still felt like a decent Tomb Raider story. But like again, if he botched, let's say Uncharted, which is basically a like God, I can't think of the film right off the top of my head. It's Clive Costner novel. Like it had Clive Costner movie. I'll think about it later. Where the guy's hunting the artifacts. You can't really. I just want to know how bad the other one was. That's why I'm just saying it's like it felt like a really bad like they tried to have all the people and then like when they tried to show what the characters were capable of, like Lilith realizes that she's the super child, not Tiny Tina, who is satire unto herself. Um, she's like flying around and she goes, "Look, I'm too old for this." It doesn't make sense. Like they
Yeah,
want to do the fan service for the game, but I think it's like Kate Blanchett and Jamie Lee Curtis are too old. They're
yeah,
just too old because all the characters are like in their 20s.
yeah. My next issue, and that one, like, I swear. Usually, when I watch movies, I count the number of issues to knock off points. Knock off points. Each time something rubbed me off the wrong way, it's like, okay, point 0.5 gone. Point 0.5 gone. And the next issue, I lost count on how many times that shit happened to me watching this movie. Um, and it's terrible, and it's something you said. The humor and dialogue, that shit throughout the movie was the most painful thing about it. Too many terrible attempts at horrible humor that simply didn't land. The humor overall was just awful, and the dialogue itself wasn't great. And they tell you one joke, but they repeat it like so many times that it's getting under the skin, you know. It was horrendous. I
You
was
know,
rolling my eyes. I was
you know
glad.
that's a selling. That's supposed to be a selling feature of Borderlands games, that the characters are satire things. But literally, it's the movie. It doesn't work in the movie because the robot just goes like the beginning. Prime example, like when the robot first introduces herself itself to Lilith. Well, it's itself because apparently robots can be non-binary. But thank you, Gearbox. I'm not gonna even get into that. That was actually a real thing. But it's like the satirical. It's like I get it. Like the robot keeps getting shot in the face. Like, did you really need this scene of the robot, the indestructible robot, got the bullets?
Yeah, and to the film
Like,
critics, to the movie critics, again,
like,
I
like,
think the tone, the satire, that was decent, but it's really some moments that are like, it's so bad. Why? Who came up with this shit? I swear, I was glad I was actually alone in the theater because I would have been one of the worst person out there because I was pissed. I was like, oh, that's no, it's not funny. It's
it's
I had so much disgust as I was watching. I
it's
was
not
like,
even dark humor funny. It's not even with a person like me who has dark humor. I laughed at a couple of jokes, but most of them were flat as crap.
and
Like,
a lot of it is like pee pee poo poo. It's like 5 years old wrote this shit. It's like no, no, why?
and I'm like, you have the Borderlands games to go off of, and some of the jokes are bad and bland, but at least you can laugh at them.
Yeah, here, it was just dreadful to witness. I swear.
It's a
Uh,
medium. It's like, but I knew it was going to be bad. You're going to watch Transformers 1. I can't
yeah,
watch that.
that thing will be bad. I know it, but you know what? That's
It's
another
going
movie
to
for
be
content.
awful. No, but it's going to be. But like, the thing about it is, right? I look at it's not that the fact that the bomb drop off of it, it's like, I want to know where all the money went. Like,
And the actors, because they hired like Kate
big
Blanchett.
people.
They hired like
What?
the black guy. I forgot his
Jamie
name.
Lee Curtis, Hart.
Yeah,
I mean, Kevin Hart isn't like that much of an egotist. He would take a silly role. But like, I think it's like him. He doesn't fit the character actor because he's supposed to play soldier. Like the guy who was Marcus, right? That's how Marcus is in the games.
yeah,
You know, the one doing the gun vendor kind of
yeah,
thing.
yeah,
Even when you get to the big action scene where the guy has the ship and the other stuff, like by that point, I'm like, oh, they're going to show her true powers and doing things. I'm just like, oh, dear God. Like, it, because they actually make Handsome Jack kind of bigger than he is from the game.
yeah,
Like, he's meant to be a big psychotic person. Like the person, as I said, who was Handsome Jack, Tiny Tina. They got Jamie Lee Curtis's character to pull her role off good. She just doesn't fit the age.
yeah.
Kate Blanchett's character, I gotta give her credit. She pulls off some of the lines, but
They are
not the
good
feel.
actors. Again, they are really good actors, but I just think they have shit material. That's the blunt and
It
honest
is.
truth.
It's very much like the Acolyte, kinda.
Yeah.
Acolyte had a couple of really good actors,
Well,
but there,
Acolyte also had a really terrible lead actress, but yeah,
well,
anyway.
you had like the guy who some of the other people could sell their roles.
Yeah.
Like, as much as I want to bash on like the Acolyte, the guy who played Darth Hotbod, could do his role.
Yeah.
The guy who masters Squid Games could do it.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, that's just what I see. And it's not that this film is getting lambasted. It is so bad, YouTubers don't even want to talk about it. That's how bad it is. It's like it's I expected bad, but not. I've
That
seen
bad.
better Netflix, the worst Netflix films
Yeah.
than this.
Yeah, that's true. Well, actually, no, it's a lie. Like so far, it's one of the worst movies I've seen, and one of the worst movies I've
I would
ever covered on this channel. Like,
I would I would actually never. Let me say this. I know you ranked it up there when I asked you if you saw it. You said it was worse than as bad as Madam Web.
yeah,
I'm
Madame Web
never.
is worst,
I
but
am never. I am not going to recommend to you, and I don't recommend this to anybody to watch the Tokyo Ghoul. If you're into anime, do not watch the Tokyo Ghoul or what is it, the other one? Okay, the Maname one that has okay, I'm blanking on it. But no, there's another one that was really popular that has like all the people with the stands.
yeah,
That one. Now you know the one I'm talking about. It's the one, the muscle one they always quote. But that do not watch the live actions of those.
yeah, forget.
Because like when you see it, I actually forget the name of that anime because it's that bad. It looks like a Power Ranger. I've seen better production in Power Rangers.
The
Like
bar is very low.
like you're talking like when they do the whole thing, like when they summon the stands, that is the whole thing in there.
Yeah,
They look like Power Ranger monsters.
yeah.
Yeah, it's bad. It's up there. I blanked the name, but everyone will know what it is. A lot of people forget.
My last issue, weak and forgettable villain. I was like, yeah, that's generic bad guy number 2000. Like, yeah. Now, I did shit on the movie a lot, but there's like five things I
There
can
are good things in
appreciate.
there.
Yeah, Lilith caring for the child was cool character growth. I did enjoy that. Nice parallels between both female leads since they were both used by their parents. The music was cool, twists and turns were okay, acting was okay. And that's all I could say about this train wreck. That's a bad movie.
And I'll just say I'm not going to say the whole thing, right? Because the whole thing, right? I knew as soon as they say like the joke of when they're going like through like Piss Valley that smells like poop, right? Tiny Tina's like, and thing is, Tiny Tina, right? God bless that character. That character is meant to be 100% comic relief, but she
Yeah,
even comes off as annoying in there because she says as her parts. Her parts. I'm like, there are good parts to it. Like they pull off some of the weird video game scenes of like blowing or driving the thing through the big monster. Most people don't like that, but that's kind of like if you've ever played Borderlands, it's outlandish.
yeah,
It's meant to be that way. But go on to more entirely something more entertaining. It might take longer.
yeah. So, one last thing before I give away my score. Considering how bad most of the humor was, this is one of the worst movie I've seen since. Its dialogue and humor felt overly forced and bad. So it's really rock bottom. You ask me what's rock bottom, I point you Madame Web and this shit. I'm like,
Not even the fan service and the costumes could save that movie.
yeah, yeah, you're damn right. So, do you want to add more about Borderland Trainwreck?
I can't even rank it right. I ranked that so low. It's not even good. I was like looking at it. I paid like I do the whole thing. I could pay for it to rent it cheap. I'm like, oh god. I'm just like, what is this? Like,
It's train wreck.
oh, by the way, here's another bad sign. You can tell how it's really bad. It hit the pirate sites very quick. I actually heard someone actually say they longed for Rebel Moon.
Actually, that's another like movie I need to see because I know it will be bad because I've seen the first one and I know all Zack Snyder sucks. So that one.
I'm just gonna tell you when you have critics that said I was looking up some videos and listening to some, they enjoyed sitting through Rebel Moon more than Borderlands. I'm like,
What?
especially cutting wheat. I'm like,
Ow.
that's bad. That's bad.
Ow. I don't see how something can be worse than.
Watching wheat being cut.
Okay, I'm actually even more hyped for the wrong reason about that Rebel Moon movie number 2. Anyway,
Yes.
my score for Borderland, the train wreck, 1.5 out of 10, and I feel generous because that could be a 1, easy 1.
I
What
would give
about
it.
you?
I would be fair and give it like a 2 out of 10 just to be nice. Actually, okay, I'll be fair. I'll give it like a 3 or a 4 just because of the acting. That's it. The jokes, but like a 3, I'd say. I
That's
could
so
be.
generous. Wow,
I
impressive.
I'm gonna be honest. As much as I hate it, they do sell the actors. Like even if you look at the weird video game plot armor, like the gunplays. I mean, take that
The
out of it.
action was fine. I
It's
was
an
entertained
action
by it.
flick based on a. They captured the essence of the game, so like a 3. But like, it's still that bad video game adaptation. They try, but doesn't mean it's good.
So now we get into Fallout TV show, the first season. It's hilarious. They actually did it right. And it's funny because um now I'm actually interested to play these games even if I know they are open world and I'm not really that into open world. After watching this show first season, I'm like, oh, maybe I will actually give it a shot. I know I got like 76, I believe, and I think I have the third one, but the
Hmm.
third one I'm not quite sure. I would need to look at my collection of games, but I'm actually interested to find out more about that game
Mm.
and such.
I have to
And
say, they use stuff from 76, but like the premise, right, of it is. But bear in mind, the only reason I think Fallout turned out as well as it did is because they also had Todd Howard sitting on their ass.
yeah,
They had, because there's a lot of stuff like Warhammer TV shows, which you hear kind of might be good or bad. People are like, give Amazon creativity, right?
yeah,
It's because as I think when I went over it with like Gray, like the first episode, right? If you're familiar enough with Fallout and character creation, the first episode introduces you. Well, see, the first off, I love the opening to the series. The opening. No one really knows kind of what the bombs look like when they first dropped. I've heard criticisms, they say nukes wouldn't do that, right?
yeah,
But when you realize this is a universe where, like when you've played the games, they used miniature nuclear devices. They weren't like, oh, we dropped bombs. Like, you remember the opening scene? Like,
yeah,
where a lot of the games, like, if you're familiar with like 1 or 2 or the previous games, like you see the destruction in Los Angeles. It starts off as like a small, looks like a nuke shell, and then it expands out, right?
yeah.
Like no one's really seen officially what they said the stuff looks like. They actually lay out the ghoul, they lay out the vault dweller, and they lay out Maximus. But second time through, Maximus still didn't sell me. But I'll
Yeah.
get to that later on because those are your core. You go over the actual character stats of them. Like, you see that, you see the opening. And then it goes to Lucy in the vault. She talks about her skill as a vault dweller. She's supposed to be like the player character.
Yeah.
Then you have, I mean, you get introduced to Maximus. Then later, the part the ghoul, which you know is Walter Goggins,
Yeah.
guy from, and he does really well in the role. Like
Everyone was good in Fallout, I think.
yeah, it does sell. Like, I don't like Maximus's character, but he does a good for his role. But
Yeah.
but that's part of the problem. What I think is with the plot for the show, like it sets in the universe, right? What is the vault? Because a lot of people had issues. Now, I don't like how they screwed with potentially. I had a couple of issues with the show, and I say this nicely. Don't call a show canon that's not canon.
Yeah. I
That's
don't
what
know, like,
you
these
don't know.
argument canon and not canon, I don't give a shit. I just want to watch
Yeah,
stuff
it's
and play
entertaining
games.
because where they did is where they got screwed up is they called the show canon. And there's the moment later on with the chalkboard. It actually got people, strangely enough, right, to basically say all the Fallout New Vegas fanboys basically said, oh, look, Bethesda's shitting on a game they didn't make. No, the series takes place after Fallout New Vegas.
Yeah, well,
By the
I
way.
don't know about the timeline.
Oh
But
no,
again,
that's when you get into like if you get into the episode when they go to Vault 4 with the chalkboard, if you
yeah.
remember that. That is
Well, I
actually
have extensive notes. I will let you
yes.
like keep going on the idea you had, but
I'll go on, yeah. I'm not gonna
I
go
feel like
I'll
we can go episode by episode, and
okay.
once
Works.
let's cover the first episode first. Now that we
I'll
kind of
say this,
shared
and then
our view.
the way they lay out the ghoul, right? They show, oh, what is the Vault Dweller's skill? That's how you set your character up in the game. Then you see Maximus.
Yeah,
He's not the best, but I'm like, I knew they weren't going to do the Brotherhood justice. The
yeah,
Brotherhood of Steel, I. It's a very much a Fallout 76 deconstruction approach where it's its own universe of rules. But then I was told, but it also clearly takes the Brotherhood of Steel back to its roots of looking for technology. But that's definitely not the Predwin that
yeah,
arrives. But then you see the ghoul, which has been alive since the bombs fell. So, and then it's the whole thing of the aftermath of, because I do enjoy the part where when they introduce the Raiders getting into the vault, but there isn't one crack and it's still there when I watched the series a second time. They've been inside the vault, but they know what Raiders are. Now, good thing they did not keep that up through the whole series.
yeah.
Someone realized that was a mistake, and they never used it again. But it was used in the first episode.
Okay, so I guess now we officially start the discussion about episode one. Episode one discussion starts. So I will just share your thoughts on the first episode now.
I think it's a good episode. It lays out the characters. And if you're familiar with how Nolan did Westworld, you kind of knew how he was going to do it. Because Nolan It's that's Christopher Nolan's brother,
Yeah,
Jonathan Nolan, who did Westworld.
yeah.
Wrote like the first 3 or 4 episodes.
That's cool. That's why it was so good.
Like it lays out the plot, why the plot's happening, right?
Yeah,
And it's not like some bullshit reason. Now there's certain parts in the episode that I kind of disagree with, like the idea, right? Because okay, so it's not the vaults that I have the issue with. The idea, you can kind of guess what's going to happen, but it's like, oh, the whole cousin thing and that type of stuff. Like
yeah,
the wedding part is the wedding scene is really good.
yeah,
Like you even have to agree on that. Like
yeah.
if you've
That's
ever
true.
seen the Fallout atmosphere, that's very Fallout. They do it. Now I find it weird they don't know what raiders are, but I have my nitpick, by the way. He knows that's Moldiver, but we don't know why. And there's something I'll get into later on, right? It's but it's like but no, the first episode was good for like a start.
Yeah,
Just a couple, but it's meant to be an introduction to all the characters.
yeah. Do you want to add more about the first
No,
episode
that's good.
only? Okay. So I guess it's my turn to go on the first episode. Here are the stuff I liked. The lore was cool. The bomb blowing up was entertaining. Slow mo were well used. This is a side note for Zack Snyder. Watch Fallout to learn how to do slow motions. Anyway, funny. I thought the humor was very fun, very good, and daring father and daughter moment, entertaining dinner. The music was cool. The action was great. It made sense how Lucy freed herself by using her surroundings. So that was in the fight in that guy's room. The music
Well,
was really good.
yeah.
Um, it had a very emotional speech about the daughter being his world. The other vault with Maximus was really fun. Well, it's not really
It's
a
not a
vault.
vault, it's the
It's
Brotherhood of Steel,
yeah.
but
But at that point, I thought that was another vault, so that's why I marked it
okay,
down.
that's what I say, yeah.
Um, the music, the music and acting were solid. Lucy protecting her cousin was really cool. Cool flashback and backstory for the character on the surface. That's the goal. The lore and ritual of the Brotherhood was cool. The music and in the bigger analysis aspect, the movie in the background gives nice parallel between the world collapsing and Vault 33 collapsing. Lucy lost of innocence was entertaining. The reveal of the guy being from the surface was great. Well shown out 32 crops aren't viable. The moment the nuclear threat is mentioned, they try to pretend it doesn't exist. And it goes back to like the satire aspect, the humor of it is just fabulous. I enjoy that a lot. Well shown how people disregard danger to enjoy their parties. Lucy being hopeful was fun. Lucy desire to find partner was entertaining. Opening up to others' vault was also very entertaining. Uh, do you want to add more on the first
So
episode?
I should say too, because a lot of the things I mentioned it is the opening. It starts off with the credits with the end, right? Because
Yeah,
you're introduced to Walter Goggins' character pre-duel. You don't
yeah,
know why he got labeled a commie pinko or whatever. You, to be honest, we still don't know why yet either.
yeah,
Because it may be because we'll get into it later, but like this is how you establish, right? Like when the bombs fall, like everyone knows that the world has been on the brink of nuclear war for like 10 years.
yeah,
Basically, if you're familiar with the games, this is like post invasion of Anchorage. The US has invaded China, basically.
Yeah.
The China's last resort was literally nukes. And now, and no one's really ever seen what the first bombs that fell look like. You've seen the craters in game, and then you hear what the lore is. They didn't go they didn't go with it because the critique was like, there's no nukes that small.
Yeah.
In this universe, they are. They're not like ours where one nuke is dropped on a city. That's how you introduce the character.
Yeah.
Lucy's like whole thing of, and they do establish. What did you think of establishing? Now, I'm assuming you didn't hate like how they laid out the conflict with that father and Moldiver, right?
I liked it. I liked every second of that
I did. I like the
episode.
plot. It's like,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I noticed a couple of weaknesses, and it comes with people later on with like Moldiver. I'm like, but my whole thing, I still stands. You're in a vault, but you know what raiders are, but you couldn't identify raiders. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't realize that, but now that you
Now
mention
that you
it,
think about it,
I'm with you.
but I'm glad that someone caught that and that never got carried on.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So I will give the first episode a 10 out of 10 because I had no issue whatsoever and it got me hooked. I was like, yeah, I didn't care that much about the game. But then I watched that, I'm like, wow, now I want to play the game. So that's the
and
feeling I got.
I'll give you the heads up too, right? You don't have to like, if you really play Fallout for the non-linear story in the deep plot, you're really going to be damn disappointed. Most Fallout games don't have that deep of a plot.
Oh, okay. So,
Okay,
okay.
let me just tell you. That I'm not going to tell you this. It's not bad. This doesn't condemn it. But just don't go in there thinking it's going to be the best storylines in the world.
Oh,
It
okay.
it's like Fallout 3 isn't bad. Almost every Fallout game. That's actually why the meme of the show was she leaves the vault to go look for her dad.
I
That's
like
like the
that. Yeah.
plot. That's like the plot of like almost every single Fallout game. Fallout 1, you have to leave to get a new water chip. Fallout 2, you got to go do something else, right? Like Fallout 3, you got to leave the vault to look for your dad. So
And
it's like,
that's also Nelly Gurry for like losing her innocence because up to that point she was so oblivious to pretty much everything in
to
the
be
real
fair,
world outside. So I like the layers of it.
I do. It adds the layers because when we get into episode 2, you start seeing the world, right? Because they are using the Southern California basin, which
Yeah.
is the base for Fallout 1, but
So we are about to jump into episode 2, but just before that, what would be your score out
I
of 10
think
for
episode
episode
1
1?
was a perfect pilot.
So for you, that's a 10 as well?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will let you start on episode 2 now.
So episode 2, you pick up with, I think, like, it's kind of like, I forget the opening, like, not exactly. Because Lucy's leaving. It's not even that. I think it starts off with Maximus leaving. Like, they're starting to look for the target. Because the idea is the first 3 episodes establish, like, I can't forget which one's the first one. But it's like, they're still dealing with the Brotherhood. Like, no, the opening starts with the Enclave doctor, call it very unrealistic, escaping. It shows the dog meat puppy that he saves.
Yeah.
With, like, him escaping the stormtrooper turrets, which are in Fallout, by the way.
Wow. Okay.
The stormtrooper turrets that are some mostly highly inaccurate, which I think they drug from Fallout 76, which is fine. But the idea of, I guess you see sometimes, because this is how you show some abilities, like maybe they dodge and they get away. Like the idea of the Enclave being still around. And they just have been cloning dog meat puppies. That's
Yeah.
actually a. So the idea, right? And then you get into eventually Maximus looking for the target because you get to see the Yogwai there. That's why he fled from the cave so quickly. Now, the Titus showing up and the Squire is a complicated scene, right? Because we know that this is not the Brotherhood. This is supposed to be the Brotherhood like 10 years removed from Fallout 4. So, like 10 years difference. So, in the West Coast Brotherhood, by the way, what's ever left of them, they are not good people. They care about technology. He talks about having to find a toaster. But the fact a guy in power armor, either untrained, can't take out a Yogwai. It was a big Yogwai, though. That's a weird thing, and he lets Titus die because Titus's character, and this is partly what annoys me, is he's the heroic coward. You're laughing because you know why. He's a heroic coward.
Yeah.
Basically, he's a hero, but he gets all these accolades. And I forget the actor's name who plays Titus that's on screen. Like, he plays like a weird individual as well, right?
Yeah.
Like, the idea is both he blames the Squire saying, I'm going to kill you, then he lets him die and gets the target. He goes, not if I get the target, right? It's like, okay. Then you get to Lucy afterwards where he enjoys the power armor. Now, what's funny is, about the show, they actually get the power armor correct. The Fallout 4, it's an exosuit.
That's cool.
That power armor, they are legit. Like Master Chief, like 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
On stage, right? When they showed the power armor, that's actually a walking like exosuit that they made for the costume.
That's cool.
You didn't, if you didn't know that. And it goes through of, yeah, it's also Fallout 4 power armor. It's meant to be clunky. Now, I disagree that a Yogwai could, or a Den Mother could scratch power armor? Okay. Then you get to the fight where Lucy makes it to Philly, which looks like the town a megaton, but it's okay. But the theory is that's actually based on the Fallout 2 Gek Hill made from the Gek. But so that's a theory. If you ever played the Fallout games,
I played a bit of 76.
you okay? So
that's the only one I remember playing.
So
I
the
think
thing
I
is,
have
so,
the third one, but I don't think I've played
okay.
much
So
of it.
3 isn't so like in Fallout. I think it's like Fallout 2. You go and get the Gek, right?
Yeah.
And then the guy who's the Vault, he uses it and he revitalizes part of the wasteland. And there's a hill. That's why they think it's Philly.
Okay.
So you get into that and you get into a really good fight when it looks like the power armor and the ghoul. But basically, it's this good scene before you get there. Lucy walks into the town asking about Moldiver. Everyone knows who she is, but they also realize Vault Dweller. You start to see in the universe that Vault Tech is evil. Yeah. Which I'm not saying Vault Tech is not evil. It's just they're going with a tagline. And there's a big controversy later on about Vault Tech. But how they do it. it's kind of the nitpick critique of the series, and I still lingers with me. If they do it worse in season 2, I'll be shocked. But like like the state of the power armor flies like Iron Man armor, but like basically the ghouls waiting there. Like I bet you even like that scene with him waiting in Philly.
Yeah. I
It
I I
it
liked
like
a lot episode 2.
I
Uh
did. Too is good.
that
It
that will be a trend with this show. I liked every single episode with this show. Um do you want to add more about
No, I
episode
think
2?
it's good. Like it lays out the plot. Like, see, Lucy has to not lose her innocence. It's the idea of the vault dweller has to change because when she's at the campsite, there's a very telling scene. Now, I do feel the guy who plays the doctor that escaped the institute, is the one from Lost, Ben from Lost,
Yeah.
and he does it really well. Like there's a couple of plot lines like we don't know why he knows about vaults, like how he knows about every single vault, but like he tells her like you need to adapt and change to survive in this world, or you need to go back to the vault. And that's the
That's true.
key of like the character growth, that the character is the player has to accept the way the world is, because the world is not the ideal world they think that's in the vault.
Yeah.
And that's where you start to see her. Like at the very end of the episode, when she has to cut the head off, it's like, but do you want me to like solve this? And it's like the ghoul's just looking like, I'm not going to shoot you. I guess very lucky the ghoul didn't shoot her because he recognized her name. But
Yeah.
that's a payoff later. But like, that's not really a whole plot thing. It's like, less alone, it's like these people are. Even the action scene in Philly works as bad as it is. So
I wouldn't say it was bad. I liked it.
it's not as bad. There's a problem with it when you get to it later. You'll know what I'm talking about, Multi, about it.
Yeah. So here are the stuff I got to say about episode 2. To start off with the stuff I liked. The opening sequence was fun. The dog protecting the owner was cool. The music and Lucy mission were fun. Meeting the scientist was cool. The scientist and other lead connecting was well made. So Maximus and Scientist, I believe. Maximus standing up for himself versus the bully was cool. Lucy was funny when she asked for direction. The lore was cool. The music, the humor again, one of the highlights of this show. The humor, I thought that was perfect. The action was great. Another note to Zack Snyder: slow motion are well made with this TV show. So Zack Snyder, take some notes, learn from that.
Well,
Um,
let me say this: the problem that helps a lot of the combat in the thing, it shows kind of the VATS combat, like what
yeah,
VATS looks like in the game.
yeah. And the ending of the episode was funny and sad at the same time. I enjoyed it a lot. Um, now let's read out some of the other notes I have about episode 2. The other leads, so Maximus earning the suit was cool. Just like Lucy, the other lead character is just a fish out of water in the new world. The hatred toward Volt people, Volters, was entertaining. And yeah, I don't have much more to say about episode 2. Do you want to add more about episode 2?
No, I'll say like the combat too. It's where you start to see a lot of the VAT style combat, but they do it in the way that you know it's video game logic, but it shows what live action VATS looks like.
Yeah.
Like it it kind of reminds me, it's like the but it still lays out why. Because it's the idea that Lucy's not going to be evil, but she's learning about the world. Like, you have to, because as I said, the thing about the scientist's little mini speech to her, you can't have a fire, but you need to, if you're going to stay out here, you need to survive, you need to adapt.
Yeah.
That's like when she's like cutting the head off. Do I really have to do that? She's learning, right? It's like, and they even, I don't know. It's like, can they maintain this going into season 2? I hope they can.
Me
Be,
too. But we
be,
are still into season 1.
yeah, no, we're
So,
like, because the quality of the writing is maintained mostly in all through season 1.
yeah.
So,
Do you want to add more
no,
for
I'm
episode
good.
2?
Yes.
Okay. In my books, this is another 10 out of 10. A bit weaker than episode 1, but still enjoyable. What about you?
It's a 10 out of 10, and I'm surprised you just didn't get onto the whole thing about plot just happens. Like how they all have to stumble in the same place.
I no, it's not that bad because, like, to the show's credit, they were seeking for the same guy, so it's kind of normal they just bump into each other because they have the same kind of goal. Like, in the worst case, you could tell, oh, that's very convenient that they have the same goal, but not that much
No,
because
they're they're
it's just well
also
written. I
they're
think it's
also
just
it's
good.
well written enough by the world standard of the lore. This is the same area that they all go into.
They have the same goal, but for different reasons.
And
Uh,
they all basically, this area is established, the map is established, that it's not just plot contrivance
yeah,
versus there's only so many places to go.
yeah. So I guess now we can start off episode 3 discussion. So what did you think of episode 3?
No, sir. That's the one where is that the one where they go by the lake and the gulper?
I
Uh,
think I will be
yeah.
honest. I've seen that like a month and a half. I got a bunch of notes,
Oh, you would.
and I think I
Okay.
know what you're talking about right now.
Oh yeah,
But
no. Okay, let me see. So yeah, that's the episode called The Head. Basically, the episode is where Titus gets a new squire. It's the guy who was bullying him,
oh yeah, yeah, I
and
remember
he
now.
has to hide the idea that this is where you start to see the layout of the ghoul's side story, right?
Yeah,
Basically, in this universe, gulpers were created by a Volt experiment. That's why they have tiny hands on the mouths. But the gulper attacks and takes Wilzig's head.
yeah,
And the ghoul, using the dog to track down the head, I actually like the scene, right? A little bit of being exposed in the water, though, is weird. Like, I guess, if you want to get the feel of the irradiated side of the universe. But it's kind of like, oh, you're going to get the gulper or whatever else. And then this is when you realize a lot of people didn't like how they were doing ghouls. Ghouls are this weird thing of, how do ghouls maintain sanity all through? Apparently, there's this drug that allows them to, and I think that's fine. It's a weird MacGuffin for the plot, but like all these episodes are laid out really well. Like, outside of a couple of the ones I nitpicks of how the Brotherhood gets executed later, like
yeah,
it's kind of like what happens, but like the head gets lost and then he gets his drugs smashed, and it leads into like, where he makes her a prisoner, and this is her first encounter with like someone who's evil.
yeah,
Like, Maximus and Thaddeus get the head, Now, there's a big thing where you see the first flashback where you start to go back to Vault 33 and you see the Norm asked the council to execute the captured raiders because he said they won't change. Because this goes into the Vault naivety. Because people thought they would. But there's also the scene of the blonde one that was talking to Lucy in the beginning, who said the raiders need to pay.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the episode, right, there's a payoff for that because he starts to plan to kill them. You see the first flashback, how he becomes a celebrity for like the Vault Tech, where he starts to explain Cooper's backstory.
Yeah.
Because Cooper's backstory is done really well. Like how it had, we don't, as I say, up to this point, we don't know about fully, but we know how we get to certain points.
Yeah.
Because that's what I say about episode this, like you start to see the drip feed about what his life was like pre the bombs, what was the state of the world pre the bombs too.
Yeah.
But you get your notes.
Okay, so here are my notes for episode 3. The humor in the movie shoot was really good. Cowboy flirting was entertaining. The bounty hunter finding the corpse was cool. Maximus was entertaining. Again, the action of this TV show is on point. The depth of the thugs was very fun. The action was great. The dog being the tool to retrieve Lucy was fun. The cousin losing his job as a gatekeeper was really funny, and like it needed to happen, like he is a shitty gatekeeper. The bounty hunter was entertaining. The action was entertaining. The endearing backstory of the guy, more very fun, dark humor. The action was on point again. Um, Here are some other notes. The vault collapsing was sad. Maximus abusing his power was entertaining. Maximus beating the thugs made him earn the suit. Lucy not learning from the scientist by having another fire out at night despite his warning. That was just very funny. Lucy says the vault is better in terms of morals than the surface. We get a trial at the same time inside of the vault, and the trial proves her wrong, showing a very dark humor type of humor. The scene was to show it wasn't perfect, and Lucy is not only disconnected to reality but also from her vault. Both the surface and the vault have both bad and good. Um, yeah. Do you want to add more on that?
Trying to see something. So the idea. Oh, by the way, episode 3 is actually where they explain how he became the iconic Volt Boy with the Volt Boy thumbs up. Forgot
Yeah.
that. Like, because he's like a famous actor. Because the whole thing, right? With like it's like a weird allegory of changing times. Because in this world, right, you start seeing, if you're bad, you're a communist, right? There's only two sides because they're like fighting China. Like the idea of because the government would phrase the people who opposed as communist. Now that's a bigger plot that develops later on in Cooper's story, because the idea is he's a veteran of Anchorage, which is really actually interesting. He basically doesn't realize Hollywood is changing and the government has been using films. That's why the whole thing on the film, he goes like, do I really have to execute this guy? Then the director tells him, do it, because the people paying the studios, this is what the people want to see, not
Yeah.
sympathy. So he
Yeah.
recreates the scene, right? And he does it properly. Like, he's slowly realizing the world is changing as well, because a lot of this is set, I think, the first part of 2077, which is before the bombs drop.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, there's parts of it and it's done really, really well. Like, the idea. Oh, by the way, in that scene at the end, the two executives, that's one thing to remember, because the show leaves breadcrumbs and it builds on those breadcrumbs. So, and I give most of these episodes like 10 out of 10s because they're really good. Like, there's a couple that are a little weaker just from the perspective, but I'll knock a couple of points off because Brotherhood bullshit. But yeah, it's like executing a landing is what they need to do.
Yeah. So episode 3 for me is a 10 out of 10 again. What about you?
It's a 10 out of 10. But as I said, these episodes were written by Jonathan Dolan, wrote the first 3 episodes, was actually the director of the first 3 episodes.
That's interesting. So I guess we can start off the discussion about episode 4. What did you think of episode 4?
So episode 4 is when you see it a little bit before you get into the ghoul. It's called the ghouls. That basically Norm goes to discover what happened to Vault 32.
Yeah.
Because Vault 32, these are basically Vault 31, 32, and 33 are community vaults. Now, the premise is good that you're not going to have a lot of interbreeding kind of idea, which is weird. That was always a big thing in Fallout. Well, when does genetic diversity end? Because that's like a line in 3. It's like, oh, we need to open the vault to the outside and maybe let new blood in. It's good. Kind of a thing. The idea of it is they were breeder vaults. So he tries to understand. Now, the big reveal is Rose's mother's pit boy was used to let the raiders in. That's like one of the first really big, like, major lines you see, because like that's kind of that part. He starts to see it because he starts exploring what the vault was like. Like, the vault, basically 32 basically killed each other in infighting, because he gets the tip from a raider. He goes, whatever was going on in Vault 32, they were already dead when we got there.
Yeah.
Like, you have the other part where the ghoul encounters his friend, and he's on the brink of becoming feral. So he kills him, then he has Lucy skin him for food. Which, this show does not skimp on the violence.
That's a good thing about this show, I'd say.
It is. Then the ghoul's going to drop her off at the abandoned supermarket for more drugs that got destroyed. It's like organ harvesters. But in this universe, you start to see weird things. Apparently, you can just take a finger and restore a finger. But because his finger got cut off, then he cut off her finger in revenge in the prior episode.
Yeah.
Like, and then you get the big fight between the robot. Like, what if Mr. Handy goes crazy and goes, "Oh, I need to do that." Now, there's a very revealing moment. Like, he could have let, she could have let the ghoul die, but she gives him a bunch of the drugs. Like, this episode is where it's a little bit of a slower episode in turns, but she does pity the ghoul who's about to die outside or go
Yeah.
feral. Like, it's not that she's turning darker, but she's understanding how the world works. But that pays off into like the next, because this is where you start learning a little bit about his backstory more. Like, he wasn't always such a bad guy. Like, but he was fresh, but the world made him that way.
Yeah. It's like the reverse of Lucy.
Because there's the big deal of, even in the vault, right? You can't just say things because the vault can't really change. Like, you start also to see the plot move forward in the sub characters. The blonde chick, right, that was pregnant and had her husband killed, she
Yeah.
starts to get with a cousin.
Yeah.
And it's like, it goes through. Each of these episodes are almost like 40 to an hour. So, yeah, I'll say
It's
that.
45 minutes to an hour.
About 45, yeah.
Yeah.
Ish.
Do you want to add more about episode
I'm
4?
good. I am good.
Okay. I'd say the music and opening sequence were entertaining. Lucy wondering why going to such extremes was really cool. The girl and the brother were entertaining and endearing. Lucy adapting to the wasteland and drinking the disgusting water. That was cool. More great humor. Hilarious dark humor. Int at Volt 32 maybe being bad guys as well. The music, Volt 32 eating each other was entertaining. Lucy escaping crazy robot was entertaining. Hilarious Lucy taking a robot hostage. The action was great. The humor was once again amazing. Lucy helping the guy despite everything was cool. The music and humor were great. So it's hilarious how we got like huge contrast between Borderlands and this thing, because I feel like every time they try something funny with Fallout, it lands, and Borderland it didn't. Just saying.
It's like the crazy robot. It's like the robot that Mr. Handy's like, "Oh, but I can't cut you up. You need to be more perfect." Like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
oh Lord. It's like, it's not even plot. Okay, the worst part it is, I was like, he's gonna hate the whole plot convenience, because that's kind of how, like, you nail. It's like, as I said in Borderlands, right? They nail the atmosphere, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah,
just
they
don't
did.
nail the execution. Fallout is a very simple formula. Stuff happens, but you need to stick the landing.
Yeah.
It's weird, right? You have, even though Lucy, you'll see a pattern in Lucy. Her perk is charisma, but she has failed every charisma check.
And
Every single time.
I will be honest. I enjoy that actress a lot. I'm actually curious to see her in other stuff.
No. Do you know the funny part about her is she caught a lot of flack because when she said she was going to play in the show, she went back to play 3 and 4 in New Vegas,
and she got shit on for
she
that.
actually played the video game.
That's cool. Wow.
People were like, why would you as an actor not research the role you're going in for?
It's stupid that people are wondering that. Like, she did play, right?
Yeah, she played. She didn't play the first 2. She watched her brothers play the first 2 recently.
Well, that's better than nothing.
And then
I'd
she
say.
played 3 and 4.
That's better than most people. That's better than me. Man,
That's better
I'm
than
ashamed
the
now.
guy who did Halo. He goes, I played the game. No, you
Yeah.
no, you
Look
didn't.
at what happened to Halo. Cancelled after 2
No, but you
seasons.
know that's actually what the funny part about it is. That's why a lot of the actors, a lot of them, even if they didn't play Halo, I think Walter Goggins' character was kind of like briefed on a little bit about Halo, the characters, what they are like in game.
Yeah.
That's probably why it's genuine. But Fallout humor doesn't have to be perfect. It can have some satirical twists.
Yeah.
But you start to see why people don't like the ghouls in this episode, because the ghouls are near indestructible in this universe.
Yeah.
Like, we haven't seen super mutants yet, but apparently ghouls have a high regeneration factor. So it's like, huh. But I do like the episode. It gets into, you get into like the next one is the past, but like this episode's really good because she's having to
Yeah.
learn the morality of the wasteland.
Yeah. And there's 3 more things to say. Number one, Lucy realizing the horrors of the world was sad, well shown, and brought to life by the music when she shot a creature that was once a human. Number two, the guy telling it's not all about what people say, sometimes it's about the truth and what really happened. That's a great team that comes back later on. Number three, both characters losing a finger was a cool depiction of an eye for an eye, but in this case, it's a finger for a finger. Amazing. Um, I had a great time with this episode, and I will sound like a broken record. I will give another 10 out of 10 to episode
Mhm.
4. What about you?
You're fine. I do give it that. It's one of those
Well,
episodes. I say most of these episodes are absolutely. I mean, there's a part where like stuff is cartoonish, like fighting the Gulper, but it doesn't kill it for me.
yeah,
Like when you realize how fighting some of the stupid creatures, like I kind of question more the look of the Gulper. There's an
yeah,
explanation of why the Gulpers are like that. I kind of already said it because in this universe they were made by it. But like, there's even the subplots work. Like it's a little weird, like, but it lands. It's kind of like the episodes have a start, a middle, and an end.
yeah,
Like it's a very refreshing part for. So
yeah. So I guess now we are into episode 5. What did you think of episode 5?
let's see. Remember, some of these are like episode. Like this is where he starts, right? Yeah, okay, this is the episode. This is the Vault 4 episode.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is the Vault 4, where there's several key parts where Thaddeus realizes that's he stole the suit and he leaves him in there and he steals the battery. Like, but he saves basically Thaddeus uses the rat away in the suit to save her from radiation poisoning because there's the whole romance, like subtle side. They probably like each other because Lucy saw her as Lucy saw him as a knight in shining armor, like from Billy, right?
yeah,
Like saves him, and it's like there's the whole thing with the vote. Like this is when you start to learn about the Vault. Every overseer has been from Vault 31. Now,
yeah,
that is there's the other part where and then he takes Chet to the other Vault. Now, there's a big deal about like the bridge scene. Titus has the gun and he's scribe walking across, which turn out to be raiders, but like they just don't shoot people on sight. We're going to walk across the bridge with our hands up. They go, oh, you're not going to kill me. Like, it's a very interesting thing, right? They're learning more about the rules. And this is when they first arrive in this is when they find Vault 4.
Yeah.
They find the other. And I want to say this is the part where they start to realize they have slowly been poisoning the raiders with like rat poison. I'm like, okay. Yeah, you're laughing. That's like
that's the dark humor of this thing.
he actually, because this is the plot where he goes, well, those raiders need to pay. So Norman starts working in the kitchen because Norman's supposed to be the normal person who's never done anything. And he's never been good at any job in the vault. So he starts catering the food and working in the food.
Yeah.
So he starts poisoning the raiders. Yeah, it's a good episode from the other, right? It's like, it's not like the other, and then it ends with them landing in Vault 4, and that is in Shady Springs.
Yeah.
That goes off into the next episode because this is a part where apparently it's been underneath there, it didn't get nuked. But yeah, you can go to your notes.
So, do you want to add more about episode 4?
I'm good.
Okay, I got a few notes. The reaction to Tedious was accurate to his character. Lucy and Maximus were entertaining. The investigation was fun. Funny vote, very long sketch. And again, this was good humor. Something Borderlands should learn about, you know? Betty being elected was entertaining. Music was cool. The action was great. And the fiends were fun. So that was the bridge. I enjoyed the bridge a lot.
Oh,
The
before I
lore
forget,
was great.
oh, by the way, before I forget, there's a scene I forgot. I have to somehow the vault got cleaned up in 24 hours. Like,
don't ask too much question.
No, no one knows. Like, they don't really explain that at all when they're going to repopulate Vault 32. Apparently, all the crap was undone. And it's the weirdest thing, like a transition. Like, they don't say there's robots or whatever, but it's pretty wild, by the way.
Yeah.
When they...
well shown flashback that were great. Vault 31 and 33 using 32 as their way to feed themselves was really dark, but enjoyable. Lucy being impulsive was well shown. Lucy learning the truth, breaking her dreams was amazing. Well shown how there is a conspiracy in Vault 33. Lucy's inner conflict about right and wrong was cool. Lucy's growth into not trusting the first goer was cool. Maximus being a liar was entertaining. More perspective changing story theme were depicted. And I don't have much more to say about this episode. I'd say this episode is another really solid one, but it was more on the middle than the others. It's a 10 out of 10 for me, but like considering it's a masterpiece thus far, it's not saying much, you know? What about you?
I'd probably say to me it's like that 9.5. I knock off a little bit. Like, I give it that because, like, this is when you start to realize, because they both went into the vault. They saw the state of Vault 32.
Yeah.
And it's like Betty, right? Is like, this is where you start to see, because the Vault plot, it's not like people say Vault Tech was good, right? No one knows. Like, most of the time Vault Tech was evil or they did something shady. But like, she's like, there's the weird moment, I kind of forget it, where right at the end, like he's in the overseer office. He goes, "Did you find something?" It's like she doesn't know he basically toured it and saw it destroyed.
Yeah.
And a lot of the show uses really old classic music to fit the scenes. So I give most of it, right? It's like it's a good series. Like it's like a 10. Like this one's the one. Like as I said, a lot of the ones I'll give lesser are straight the Brotherhood ones later on. Just
Oh,
because.
so very soon.
Like when you go to the straight when you get to the straight I you use the Brotherhood as a convenience.
Yeah.
Like it's no. It the problem it's like the violin radio station part.
Yeah.
I hated that episode. Like, Titus is a retard, but it's not even part of his character.
So, coming next, episode 6, I guess. What did you think of episode 6?
So this is episode 6 is the more controversial one. Where you start to see this is the one with the infamous chalkboard.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the one with the infamous chalkboard and how everyone started going after Bethesda because you disregarded New Vegas because you hate it. All the New Vegas fanboys came out at once and said whatever. But it's set in Shady Springs, which was the capital of it. Because last time any of us ever knew of Shady Springs was from New Vegas, but they kind of hinted it was falling as a city anyways. But it gets nuked. You see the nuke on Shady Springs. Now, it's not really explained a lot about it. And they're also in Vault 4, right? They're worshipping Moldiver. But this is also Moldiver, a portion of her backstory as well. She was a scientist who had her cold fusion seized. Cold fusion experiment. She was leading a Scientologist West cult. And she tries to get Cooper to see, and gives him the bug to bug his wife because his wife is basically an executive for Vault-Tec. This is where you start to see it, right?
Yeah.
And then he eventually, because they worship her as a flame mother. Now, this is when you start to see the cracks in a little bit of Moldiver's plot. When you understand, you go, when the payoff happens, how could she be alive? Because it's the same Moldiver. It's not the other. So, Vault 4, it's revealed, by the way, as in a backdrop, like in one of the prior episodes. This is where the little nit scenes you see when the two black family people were living in as a pure scientist vault. They were using humans with the FEV to breed like monsters, like the Gulpers.
Yeah.
So, and there's a whole thing in Vault 4, just don't go down to this floor. But apparently they rebelled and then did the thing, but they took the survivors of Sandy Springs or Sandy back to the vault, which bear in mind, right?
Bear in mind what?
Sorry, I was just reading saw the stuff in chat. Miss Sparkles asked how they clean it in 24 hours. That's the question. We don't know.
Don't ask too much questions.
It's never explained, and it's the weirdest thing because once you get the explanation what the volts are, it makes sense. It kind of makes sense, but we don't know. Like, because there's a horror scene, right, where they show all the death. Apparently, they got rid of them. But like in this episode, though, you see Moldiver and the whole thing. Basically, anyone questioning the narrative of the government,
They
if
get
you,
offed.
they're basically called communists right now. Like that's what happens. You're called a communist, and because there's like a thing when they're going through the, uh, because I think this is the episode where Cooper is having a party, right? Because he starts to doubt Vault Tech because he goes, "Well, can our daughter take her dog to the vault if there's something that happens?" No, she's like, "No animals are being allowed in the vault." Like, like it's he starts to not doubt the whole thing. He's like, what happens? Because you start seeing why, like, and then when he's asked to meet Moldiver goes, basically, uh, so, like, you start to see, because it starts to formulate the theory, how could Moldiver be alive 200 years in the future? It's the
Because
same
science.
Moldiver. And it's not, and that's a problem later on. No. So that's like my thing. Like when you see it, it's like some of these, right? It's going, oh, this also has the scene where recurring because they arrest the ghoul because they think the ghoul murdered the people inside the supermarket.
Yeah.
But it's like, and he just brutally kills the people. And the whole thing, right, is the same. But they get excommunicated from the vault and sent on their way. Like, oh, you're just going to die up top anyways. Okay. But also, it's that whole point of there's a little bit of plot convenience because apparently the scavengers found the armor, the power armor, and took it to the vault.
Well, they are scavengers, so they are seeking to find stuff.
Yeah, but okay, there is one problem, and I'm going to say this in this episode. All these reactors are powered by a fusion reactor. Okay? Anyone who's been familiar with most of Fallout, fusion cores should be everywhere. But why does the Vault need a fusion core when they have a super nuclear reactor that keeps the goddamn thing running? But it's like, oh, I can't get the power armor to work because. And he just tosses it back down there so the vault still has power.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a dumb plot point, by the way. I'll let you go with your notes, but you'll understand. Now think about it. That's stupid. Because
Yeah.
it's common knowledge that these vaults, the vaults that were meant to sustain themselves, had a permanent working nuclear reactor without faults.
Yeah. So, here are my notes. Here they are. The advertisement of the vault was enjoyable. The guy poking fun at Hollywood was great. The end of the world being a product was great. Funny exchange between Lucy and Maximus. The overseer of Vault 4 had charisma. The lore of not having dogs was cool. The desire to have war so Vault are useful. Funny music. Maximus asking what's his what's he's eating, what he was eating. Lucy learning history is different to everyone was entertaining. Um, oh yeah, like she thought there was only one history, but she goes somewhere else and she realizes, oh, there's another history and it's different. That was kind of cool. The action was entertaining. The cult like ritual going on was very funny. The people getting undressed was hilarious. Vault 4 being insane from Lucy point of view was cool. The flashback connecting to Vault 4 was entertaining. The theme of war, removing freedom, and the desire of freedom was entertaining. Maximus questioning his place uh, was kind of cool. Maximus and Lucy being depicted as test subject was well shown and told. All of it. Side note, I could debunk how unsecured level 12 was since there was actual staff on site to make sure everything would be alright. And they are kind of incompetent. And it's satire. Um,
Well, I mean,
okay. If you say
I want
so,
to say,
Sparkle.
I want to say though, like the idea, right? Because they do tease the idea of Vault 4 because that was a science vault that's like in an earlier advertisement kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like it's supposed to be like the scientist vault as well.
Yeah.
Like, but the whole thing, right? Because I don't know if it was in this episode or another. There's a flashback because I forgot to mention too. Titus is learning, not Titus, but Maximus is learning what it's like, and he wanted to like stay in the vault with Lucy. Like they convince people just to stay. Like now, like there's a flashback too as well. It pays off. I forget what episode that it's in, where to when she is younger and she remembers her mother. That's in Shady Springs. Now, the big thing about this episode, and before I forget it, is the lore breaking. Because no one knows when Shady Springs or whatever, or Sandy Springs, was destroyed. It was destroyed post Fallout New Vegas. Now, the thing on the chalkboard, everyone says post a point, and then there's the nuking of the city. That now they have hinted that that's officially canon, and people learning the history. So, like, the idea, right, is each vault is different because there were also a lot of people who hated it because there was a mutant in the vault.
Yeah.
But it would make sense if they're taking outsiders.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll say on that. It's not a bad episode. It's still a good one. It's like, oh, but we can't have you here, and you're. That's why I like the end. You're just gonna die on the surface. I just thought it was weird that this vault was powered by one fusion core, and I'm just like, okay, what the hell? What were they gonna do if they didn't get their fusion core back?
They would die.
They would die. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if it was humor or just chance. I'm just like, all right.
It's both.
It's just like, but it's not awful though. It's just weird. Like, it's just.
That's
It's
the
the best.
point of it, I think. That was
It's
the
like
point of it.
he could have kept his power armor. He goes, but the Volt's gonna die. And I'm like, I'm thinking myself. I'm like, that Volt has an unlimited nuclear reactor. It doesn't need a fusion core.
So, I will
Yeah,
give this episode a 10 out of 10. What about you?
I probably did the same. Like, I give it like a 9 just because of the It's the lore breaking and the little bit of the bullshit. But,
Okay, we are near the end of this journey with Fallout. What did you think of episode 7?
uh, yeah, this is the one where actually you have it where he gets close to the radio station.
I think so. I will be honest, that was my least favorite episode
Okay, do
in
you
that
know the
season.
lore of the violin station?
Um, no, I don't.
That's a thing from like Fallout 3. It's from Fallout 3 and it's from Fallout 3 with like the and Fallout 4 with oh, we're just a fiddle station all the time. But like we learn like it's interesting how because he gets himself healed, right?
Yeah,
He gets himself healed. But I'm like he becomes a ghoul,
yeah,
right? Now the so the concept is right like it's learning. This is when you start getting towards the finale part, right? Because you already have the part with Moldiver, it gets explained. Or he starts listening in on the wife and the whole thing. Like, um, basically it's like um there's a thing with the station where he finally does, right? Like they try to shove the dog into the cooler or whatever, and then he goes up and he gets killed by a trap through the neck, and he goes, "How am I not dead? Oh, you're a ghoul." Like, oh, because the doctor that's the quack has FEV, but I guess it turns people in. It's weird, right? Because there's two parts where they didn't they take the wrong head back to the Brotherhood,
yeah,
like, and then Norm breaks into Vault 31. Basically, Ghoul basically also learns basically from the prior episode about Moldiver's location, goes there. But he also finds the dog. Now there's the reveal of he basically knew like Moldiver had her research bought out and then I guess they shelved it. They could have had unlimited nuclear energy. I mean unlimited fusion energy forever.
yeah,
And they but they chose not to. But by most lore in Fallout universe, the whole world's been running on nuclear power and uranium. They had to almost start because that's why the invasion of Anchorage happened. To be honest, because it was the last source of uranium. Basically, because it's kind of like, well, this is where they start with the whole Vault Tech is evil, big tech kind of a thing. What? I'll have to explain it to you at some point, Mixed Sparkles, about how they did it. Because in the Fallout universe, the reason why you see stuff is they don't have microprocessors. They have something different. They develop parallel. So, like, there's the big deal of, like, basically, right? I don't know if this is the episode, but like one of them is it's the next one really. It's kind of like when they actually explain it. Like he begins to not trust his wife, and his wife starts to suspect something is bugged as well. But like,
That was episode 8, yeah.
it's episode 8. What? That's an 8. Like the idea of he didn't want to listen in because not why you not trust Voltec. And I think this is an episode where I want to say this. It's or the next where you see him meet like the overseer. Like you start to get the idea of the guy, like because there's one part when they're like touring the vault, the guy who was the head of West Tech, who goes to work for Vault Techs that starts Buds.
Yeah.
Remember that, because there's a bigger payoff to that, as you know. Like,
Yeah.
that's when he gets in to who the guy is. You also get the idea of, like, what happens, because he... And it's giving them that backstory. Because you're getting to the penultimate episode. And then basically, after the ghoul finds it and finds the head's gone, he just takes dog meat and then goes to meet where Moldiver is. But then that's the big reveal about Moldiver and her involvement. But at this point, you still have no idea how she's been alive for 200 years. It's that weird point. I'm like, they're never going to pay this off. Because
You think so?
like at least not till the second season, I hope.
Yeah.
Because like the second season, because it doesn't resolve itself in the next episode either.
Yeah.
Like, but when they explain the other, but that's pretty much it. It's like the penultimate episode. It sets up for the finale, like what it is.
Yeah.
Like why everything happens. Basically, it's like because there's the whole thing of Maximus has to pay the price and do whatever, but he goes back to the Brotherhood. So that's pretty much that. It's just the pin up of the episode. It's fleshing out some of the plot holes.
Yeah.
Like,
and now I guess
I want to say too, it's like Lucy's trying to get her to come back, get Maximus to come back to Vault 33. But it's like he can't. He has to go back to the Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So it's like it leads to that. So
I guess I can go into my notes now. Except if you'd like to add more about.
No, you're good.
Okay.
No.
I only had one issue. That's the first one with this show so far. Plot convenience, bumping into the doctor in the middle of nowhere as the guy was about to self-erase to remain YouTube friendly. I found that very convenient. Arrive a minute later, he's dead. Just saying. And that character is very important. So that bothers me a lot. Outside of that, I did enjoy the episode overall, despite that convenient plot point. The opening sequence was entertaining. Lucy arguing was fun. The gore was well made. Maximus' mistake was hilarious since he wanted to help. The guy setting off booby traps was entertaining. The guy turning into a ghoul was great. Well earned kiss. Great satire about two people talking about music without knowing a thing about music. Chet realizing the group living in the vault is full of cowards. The irony of using tolerance shield while they act like they don't tolerate Lucy behavior and mistakes. It's hilarious. The ghoul was shown as being merciless since he deleted a child to save himself. The bad guy not seeing themselves as villain was entertaining. The girl in the flashback was a cool villain. And that's it. I give episode 7 a solid 9.8 out of 10. What about you?
I give it that. I do give it like I give it like a. It's the weaker of the episodes for
I'm
me.
with you on that. Yeah.
It's not the best. It's like an explanation dump. So I give it like a 9, 8 or a 9. It's like there's parts of it that could have been explained better.
Yeah.
Like, Thaddeus realizing he's a ghoul, the Brotherhood would find out and kill him because he's become a mutant.
Yeah.
Like, it's something I suspected about, like, the Doctor, because when you think about, or the snake oil salesman kind of guy, right? The
Yeah.
guy who's a safe, like, if you remember in the earlier episodes, when Titus first mentions him, he goes, "The guy's trying to fuck with my chickens." I'm like, that's a ghoul. Ghouls supposedly act weird around chickens. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like, there's a little subtle point, and I'm like, there better be a payoff to this. And they don't really say it. Like, is the guy a ghoul or not? Or how does he have the FEV? Like, Miss Sparkles, it's actually a good series. I'm actually surprised. Like, for the most part, right? I could give it like a 9 because it's like the idea of the fiddle station. Like, one is like in Fallout 3, it's Agatha's station, and then in Fallout 4, it's the fiddle station. Fiddle music all the time. That's where the joke reference comes from. Multi.
Yeah. Do you
So
want to add more about that episode? Or
I'm
we
good.
can move on
No,
to
to
episode
the
8?
finale. The finale.
Yeah,
Yes.
episode 8. What did you think of episode 8?
I think the episode 8 is actually a really good finale.
I'm with you on
Because
that.
he actually, because it ties up all, I'd probably say 90% of the loose ends.
Yeah.
90% of the loose ends. Like, when he gets into Vault 31, he finds the head of, it's like a robo brain, but it's like on a little robot's body. And then you realize Vault 31 is nothing but cryogenically frozen people from Bud's program. Which, unironically, that is how the way they say they do cryogenic vaults in Fallout now. Like, that's like in, what is it? Fallout 76's latest. Like, one of the things, vault design, like how you're going to do a vault like that. Basically, he designed the vault to be, that's what you start understanding about it. Norm finds out about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's about how the vaults truly work. The vaults were always controlled. Vault 31, every overseer comes from 31, and it was chosen from Bud's.
Yeah.
Because there's the other part where when he starts listening in on the wife, it's like, oh, Volt Tech. Because at the table, right, you have House, you have the head of West Tech, you have the head of Roboco, and all the big corporations mentioned in Fallout. With Volt Tech, they go, oh yeah, like we could we're going to eliminate all of their competition in the world by starting a nuclear war if we had to. Because they're trying to say, oh, Volt Tech started it. Because how we know the timeline, right, is House would have not been out. Like, by game logic, House would not have been out of, he would have already been in Vegas inside his bunker trying to figure a way to stop the nuclear missiles that were going to go there. And that's, but like, he's like, okay, because there's like the head of big mountains there too. No, it's House from Fallout. He's the head of Vegas. From New Vegas, basically. Like, and they're like, oh, but then they go, oh, Vault Tech, we're going to give you all a vault. You can do with it as you please. You get hints at all these other vaults, and it shows a map with all the vaults in the country. Like West Tech goes, yeah, I'm going to experiment with like a vault where we experiment with like force evolutionary virus kind of a thing. Like it's a that payoff is in this one. Now you get with the whole thing with Moldiver, the explanation of Moldiver, where they do leave the queer bait plot between basically her father blew up Shady Springs, still has access to the nuclear arsenal, blew up the city because Rose fled the vault with the children because there was a payoff in a prior episode of a flashback that showed the two kids growing up in or seeing a city that was flourishing. He used the nuclear device to blow the city up. That's how he got the children back. The ghoul, the charred ghoul sitting at the table, is the mother. Now that was creepy. Now Moldiver, like they still don't say it. Moldiver, it's not clear if Moldiver got into Bud's Bud program, right? Because remember when I said, think about the two executives who were at the photo shoot wanting him to be the Vault Boy. Those were two prior overseers of 33.
Yeah.
Because you see the screen of the chambers that were open. Betty is one. They unthaw them every so often. Like, and it's the payoff that they execute it. They execute everything except they leave like a couple hanging. Like, what's the status of the NCR? Destroying the capital city would not stop the NCR. The NCR was a regional power. Now, that's a plot hole that I'm hoping they explain. Destroying one city would not do that. But like the big battle scene with like the power armor, right?
Yeah.
Now, this I find weird. Remember in one of the prior episodes in Philly, the ghoul is fighting him, and he knows about this weakness in the T-45. But is it in the T-60? And he shoots all the knights.
Yeah.
Like, okay, right? It's a little weird, but he takes out the Brotherhood and the Knights and the other stuff.
Betty is a girl. It's the black girl, I think.
The older black lady who becomes the overseer. By the way, the other one that gets the eye patch that had her eye gouged out, she's from Vault 31 as well, because she is shown in a flashback as well. They show that McLean, the reason why the ghoul recognized the name McLean. That's because he was a young executive that wanted to meet him in the office.
Yeah.
So that's when they established the idea of the buds, because people brought, but with the lack of people, wouldn't something population be a problem? No, we'll just make a control vote. Basically, it's hinted that Cooper's daughter and as well as his wife is in a major control vote. But my sticking issues with the finale is, like, to be fair, just anyone can pilot power armor without training. Like, the father takes off with it because the father tries to go back to the vault, but he gets injured. Thaddeus could kill him because Thaddeus wants revenge. I mean, not Thaddeus, but Maximus wants revenge for Shady Springs.
Yeah.
Why not just shoot the father? But he hesitates and he flies off. Moldiver, that's why I say he gets established as the tragic hero, because you get also with the Brotherhood right before the big battle. You get like they were going to execute. I don't know why they were going to execute him, but like he knows where the target is. It's because the Elder knows that the Brotherhood is corrupt. Apparently, Dane, because we have overextended. Apparently, Dane is a they them, but it's not really a big deal. Which, okay, in the grand scheme of the actual story, Dane purposely sabotaged her chance to be a knight. But it doesn't explain why Titus is like the cowardly hero. Because after the big battle, which is actually a weird battle scene, it looks like a bunch of raiders taking on the Brotherhood of Steel, killing some of the ones that are not like power armored. The power armored ones are taking just a lot of explosives and dying. The ones that make it to take out Moldiver get whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Apparently, like, there's the whole scene of like Lucy has the big revelation that like her father's evil and she doesn't want to go back to the vault as well. Like, and she actually kills her mother out of sheer pity.
That was
And
dark, but
it is
yeah, you're
dark.
right. The way you
Like,
framed it, that's goddamn funny, but yeah.
it's out of pity.
Yeah, you're right.
She's literally suffering as a charred ghoul.
Yeah.
Now, my thing is, I get, and it's gonna see why didn't she take her mother's pendant?
I don't know.
Think about that. I'm just like, why didn't you take your mother's pendant? Because they do hint that potentially Moldiver and her were in a lesbian relationship, but it's not like explicitly like said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they have a deeper connection. It's like I think it was a plot cut at the last minute. Like it goes, oh, but we did it, Rose, or whatever. And I'm like, well, that's queer baiting. But that doesn't kill the immersion. So at the end of the big battle, it leads where there is unlimited fusion power, cold cold fusion power,
Yeah.
and she's like, tells Maximus, "What do you think the Brotherhood would do with this?
War.
Use it, use it, war, what?" And he gets credit for the kill, even though he did not kill her. So that's how it ends there, right? Then the ghoul's going off. Then Lucy goes off with the ghoul to go track down her father, who has made his way to New Vegas. Like,
Sparkle is right. They're odd. But yeah, keep going.
so it wraps up, as I said, about 90% of the stuff leaves a room open because they tried to say, see, we don't know. See, Nolan was told to have no endings of games be canon. Okay? But what we see of Vegas is Vegas looks like a war zone.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, if you have never played New Vegas to the endings, there's like broken walls. There's various damage to New Vegas that wasn't there from the prior. So we don't know if the NCR invaded Vegas or what happened. And that's because the second season is going to go into New Vegas, basically. Because it's probably House is going to be a bigger guy as well being there, because you never played New Vegas, but House is a very core plot there, and House was part of Vault Tech. So we don't know. We'll have to see how they execute it. You know, we'll see what ending they kind of lean towards happened, because we know from this timeline that the city was destroyed post the events of New Vegas,
Yeah.
meaning parts of the NCR started to decline. But again, like, this is something we'll have to see, right? Because it's like, I do think overall the series is good. It has a good start, it has a good end, right? And I don't know what Multi's thoughts will be on it, but I felt like most of the plots were. And Norm is left with a choice. Basically be frozen again, right? And he uses his father's pod. Well, we don't know what it's going to be, basically. Like, because he's going to die of starvation. And then he's offered the spot in the Buds program later on.
Do you want to add more?
I'm good. Like, but I want to say we'll have to see a couple of plots if it pays off, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, but let me say this, leading into season 2, I can just tell you it's going to go into Vegas because it shows a Deathclaw skull as well as Vegas, but we don't know really how they're going to do it. You know, it might it might subvert ourselves and it might blow up in season 2, or they might keep the same pace and the same style of storytelling. That's why I
Yeah.
said, can they keep the effort up? Don't have a change in the writers and stick a landing.
Yeah. So here are my notes about episode 8. Maximus being back at the Brotherhood was entertaining. The music, the conspiracy, and the actor doing his own investigation was cool. The son finding out about the labs was entertaining. The lore was great. Lucy learning the truth was sad and great. The action was entertaining. The music, only flashing fire shots lighting the action sequence was really creative and really fun. The reveal of who's the ghoul was great. The sound effect and sad music when Maximus woke up were all great. Civilization coming back was wonderful. Perfect ending for Maximus that became loved because his people think he ended the threat. Lucy becoming the actor's sidekick was great. Um, a few more notes here. Voltec blowing up Shady Sands was cool, but again, can we believe her perspective? The reveal of the father being a villain was amazing and well made. Lucy mother being turned into a ghoul was very sad. And yeah, this episode is another 10 out of 10. Um,
See, what I say, the idea that the father was an executive, because that's why she captured the father. She needed a Vault Tech executive who knew the code,
yeah,
which, and it leads into like how maybe they will, like, I mean, the thing is, right? I mean, this isn't the first series. I want to say Amazon also has a Yakuza series coming out too,
yeah,
based on one of the Yakuza games. So we'll see how well they do, right?
yeah,
Like, it's they executed it well. It's definitely a weird, because, as I said, she killed her mother because her mother was just basically suffering.
yeah.
Like, then the father's like, "Come back with me," but then she learns the horrifying truth. It's like the third act of a Fallout game. You learn that your father's a monster, not he's not the hero.
It's sad. Yeah,
It's like they wrap up, but you agree with me, they wrap up like 90% of the loose ends.
Yeah,
Like,
probably more like 95. The
but
rest
like
is
you still
still
don't
like,
know why Moldiver was still alive. Like
yeah,
I would get it if Moldiver was still alive because she was part of Buds.
yeah,
But I'm not like saying cryogenic freezing would not have been a thing. But did she freeze herself or did she get out earlier?
but
But
maybe it's more like, oh, it's just a few years. It's like 20 years or 30 years.
what? For the show?
Yeah,
No,
like,
the show is set in uh the furthest the Fallout universe has gone. The show is set like uh basically 2293.
okay,
Like it's 2293 or 2296. It's
okay,
set 200 plus years after the bombs drop. So she would have had to been frozen or something. Like
okay.
that's why I said it's a major weird like missed point unless they're going to explain it maybe like in
Or they will
season.
all people forget about that.
You're gonna hope people forget about it, right? Like it's just gonna be like it makes no sense. But remember though, House is remember Robert House has been kept alive it, by some technology for like 200 years himself. So like it's your choice whether or not to kill him in the video in Vegas, right? He's been
Yeah,
kept alive by like some chamber technology. And basically, if you break the chamber, he just dies. So, yeah, it's so it may link back to Vegas, it may just do it. It's like but overall I do recommend it. Like there's still a lot to see yourselves because the idea of there's a lot of subtle. It's a really good one. Like it's a very well written series. I mean, you have certain stuff that's definitely not the strongest. It breaks the lore. Like you have like this version of the Brotherhood is fine. Like the reason why the Brotherhood lore breaks me, I break with it. It's because the fact that if you go by Vegas standards, the NCR had beaten back most of the Brotherhood of Steel, right? Because like the
yeah,
Brotherhood is because one of the last orders of the Brotherhood of Steel was in Vegas. Okay. So you're telling me out west there was another chapter that just sprung up at a military base. That's like the weird thing that I think maybe it was invented for this universe because what got see they called the airship the Predwin, but they advertised it not as the Predwin, but its model is the Predwin from Fallout 4.
yeah. What would be your grade out of 10 for episode 8?
I give it I give it a I do give it a 10 out of 10 for a finale.
Okay. Well,
I
I guess we can go on the closing thoughts about the entire season. It's like, what do you want to add more about like the entire show and the season as a
I
one
think
thing?
some of the others, right? I do think they're going to have to see. I'm hoping that they maintain this going in to like they need to do figure out how they can maintain it.
Yeah,
Like and not pull like a a Halo or something weird and subvert everything, because they're about to enter a tricky territory with Vegas. People are really, really defensive about Vegas.
Yeah, that's what.
Really?
Why? Why is that?
Oh, you do not know about the cult of New Vegas, do
I
you?
don't know about anything.
Okay,
Like
how
I
the
played
quickest
maybe
way
half
there.
an hour 76.
So okay, 76 is a amalgamation of the games, right? It's like, and if you play on PC multi, I can give you a bunch of stuff as well. Like I
No,
play
I
like,
play on Xbox. I don't
oh
have
boy,
a proper
it's that
computer.
sucks. I wish it had crossplay, but it does. Like I have a whole bunch of like little plans and things. Like, see, the thing about 76, it's meant to be the MMO that takes into account like what the show draws from is a lot of early lore. They redrew the lines that was like Fallout 1 without having the master involved. They
Yeah.
basically moved everything, which is like the boneyard, the where the first schools were found. Like that's the weird part. I get going with a little bit different of a lore, but when you mess with stuff like Cult of New Vegas, the Cult of New Vegas people absolutely believe that New Vegas is the best game ever. And outside of the early Fallouts, it's better than Fallout 3. But if it weren't for Fallout 3, New Vegas would not be made. And they defend that game with their lives. And then they call every other Fallout shit in the mod came out afterwards. Even though the combat was subpar, the only thing that saves that game is the plot and the subtlety of how the factions in the world building. Because I cannot recommend that game for the most detailed gun combat known to man. But the Cult of New Vegas people believe that the game was perfect. And yeah, that's why it's not a deep rabbit hole versus it's a fandom rabbit hole that they can't see how potentially early subpar the game was. But lore wise, Bethesda used it to cap off the history of the West so they could move east.
Interesting.
Because that is the canon ending, because it takes place right around the same time that Fallout 4 takes place.
Okay.
Just to give you an idea. So, two things you would have had what would have been the lore of it. So, that's why the show is actually probably, because I think the show itself was a canceled, it plays out like a canceled movie script or a game script, basically. Is the best way I can put it. Like, I think it was a rough draft for like Fallout 5, and someone didn't want to go through with it. So they said, well, hell, it's going to make a good TV show, you know? And it does.
Yeah.
But it does not make a good Fallout game. So we'll see. And Fallout 5 isn't going to be in the works for another 2 years or so, because they have Elder Scrolls 6 in the line. Because that's what people don't realize. It plays out a lot because he was told not to use any canon endings.
Yeah.
So, but everything is canon. How does that work? So, anyways, your
That's
thoughts on it?
interesting.
Because if that's a perspective people don't know, it
Yeah,
could be a good show because, as I said, I want to say Amazon has the Like a Dragon TV show coming out too,
yeah,
but it's like going to be based loosely on Yakuza games, the Yakuza games.
yeah,
Uh, and that's a very touchy fandom too.
yeah.
So
So here are my notes about the entire season. No issues with the show. Amazing action and music. Brilliant characters and flashback. All about perspective. The theme of freedom was cool. Even if episode 8 is one of my least favorite on its own, I'd say it's one of the best because it brought a great ending to a first very solid season of the show. Lucy becoming disillusioned about the world was great. Humor was priceless and amazing. Great showing instead of telling. And it comes down to the lore and universe. Acting was wonderful. And now, um, before it's really the last word and the grade, um, here's all I would rank all of the episode. In first place, we got episode 1 with a 10 out of 10. So they're basically all 10 out of 10 except the last place. So um in second place we got episode 3. In third place we got episode 2. In fourth place we got episode 6. In fifth place we got episode 5. In sixth place we got episode 4. In seventh place, we got episode 8. In the last place, we got episode 7 with a 9.8 out of 10. Um, every other episode are 10s. Um, I will go as far to say that this is the best TV show I've covered so far. It's a masterpiece. That first season is what shows should strive for. Um, do you want to add something before
I
we
want
kind of
to
end this off?
I want to say that this is like uh I want to say like this is how shows should. They could have gone a very bad Netflix adaptation. Like this is what the Halo show should have been. Like in the way of maybe you still have a lot of loose lore. You still could have done the Halo universe,
Yeah,
but adapting a video game is very hard because a lot of this was still done with fan service in mind. Like I think as I told before, like the actress played the game, so it's not uh like oh we just know the material and I'm going to take the helmet off. I still hear to this day people like they say with Halo, it's like because Halo's original premise, it's not. I mean, they could have had a good series on their hand. They would have still been maybe mediocre, but Fallout is a good sign of that. You know,
yeah,
it's not like it's a good example of how to adapt. Now, it will be funny if they do Fallout right, then they screw up on the Yakuza series and maybe start slipping in season 2. But I mean, from all indications, I think if they're smart, they won't do that. You
yeah.
know? But it's a good example of how you could adapt a story or a work.
I agree. That's a good example. Um, anyway, it's the outro now. Um, I will give this season a 10 out of 10. And what about you?
I give it a near 10 out of 10 for the most part. I mean, there's weak episodes, but even the weaker episodes still have good stuff in them. Like, I mean, that's why I say, like, it's still strong, like, in the telling.
Yeah. So, um, I will say this. Um, I had a blast. And it's crazy how we covered one of the worst movie ever made. and one of the best TV show ever made in the same stream. And at first, I thought both topic would be great until I went in the theater to see Borderlands. That's the crazy part.
By the way, I should say this. See, just wait. You'll learn what I say. When you get your show palette cleared and you want to watch Shogun, you'll understand why I say that's good. If you like Fallout, you will like Shogun. Same with Masters of the Air.
It'll take
Favorite.
times, man, because I got other priorities. Anyway,
I know.
next week, do you plan on watching Alien Romulus?
Yes, that is on my to watch list. I sent you my watch list what I was gonna watch.
Yeah. So, hopefully we will talk again.
Romulus is been on, barring the world's biggest swerve. Okay.
Yeah.
And them totally fucking it up, right?
Yeah.
It should be a solid at least 8 or 9, maybe a 7 at a minimum. Because everything coming out about Alien Romulus, unless it's just the most bait and switch thing, everyone's been hyped for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm not setting my expectations to be perfect with it.
We had so many bad Alien movies. Anyway.
But well, not to, but it is a move. I expect as people should see that. That's going to be good. And I think it might not be a 10 out of 10, but it might easily still be a good series. Everything coming out about it means it looks strong.
Yeah, I agree with that. Even the trailer. I'm not a big horror fan, but I'm excited about it. Anyway,
Well,
that's it for today. Um, I think it's time for us to just leave it for now. Next Saturday, probably I don't know what time exactly because I will do some babysitting, but uh, maybe at some point in the evening we will talk about Alien Romulus because I will go see it Friday when it comes out. And with that being said, um, I think we are out. Have a great day, everyone, and take care.